Boston College battles, plays hard, keeps it close, but it wasn't enough to take out Notre Dame.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you're looking for Boston College news, analysis, and details, you are in the right spot. I'm an expert who's going to give you the details on this game, and it's on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. On today's show, BC falls 25-10. We are here live at Alumni Stadium for a post-game reaction show. So we're going to talk about missed opportunities BC's had to actually take away this game. They just did not have enough, and BC hangs tough. So let's get into this. Now, going into this game, Boston College was a 28.5-point underdog, with Notre Dame really looking to solidify their role in the college football playoffs with a win over BC. I think a lot of folks, looked at what Notre Dame had between Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, Malachi Fields, and CJ Carr, and that defense and offensive line, and said, this is not going to be a game BC is going to be able to hang around with. I mean, look at my prediction. Look at Mitch's predictions. We both, and I think a lot of other people, picked Notre Dame to win this one big. Credit to Boston College. Now, the big shocker going into this, when I got to the press box, was Jaden Skeet, wide receiver, returned. Bam Crouch, linebacker, returned. I did not expect either of those two to play again because I believe Bill O'Brien said it at a press conference. Now, he might have meant that it was just for that game, but it really sounded like what he said before the Louisville game, that those two were gone. So to have them back, I thought was a big deal. And not enough to really sway how I felt about it, but, linebacker had been a position BC has really struggled with. They've been trying different things out there. I mean, they put KP Price out there for weeks at linebacker. Getting Crouch back and having him out there, I thought would make a big difference. And to his credit, the defense, for the most part, looked very different up until that run by Jeremiah Love, which I'll get into later. They were able to, for the most part, up until that one play, they were able to slow down that running attack. Now, it didn't seem like Notre Dame leaned all that heavily on the run. I think going into the fourth quarter, Love and Price probably had about 18 carries or so between the two of them. So it wasn't like they were running the ball. They preferred instead to just have CJ Carr go back, basically no pressure being able to get at him, and let him just huck the ball down the field. That worked pretty well for Notre Dame as they scored their first touchdown on a touchdown by Malachi Fields. Now, if you don't know who Malachi Fields is, as a Boston College fan, you really should, because this is the third straight season he scored a touchdown against BC. He was the wide receiver for UVA the last 2 years. Remember the game 2 years ago at Alumni where UVA played here and they scored on a Hail Mary in the end zone? Malachi Fields. Do you remember the touchdown on the road last year that he grabbed over, as wide receiver grabbed over Ashton McShane that really ended up being the difference maker? Malachi Fields. He gets another one in this game. And that deep pass, the deep, long, developing passes Notre Dame kept doing, really ended up being the difference maker in this game. Carr ended up going 18 for 25 for 299 yards. When he decided to go back and chuck it, BC really couldn't stop him. Isaiah Farris tried his best. You saw a few other, other wide cornerbacks trying to stop them as well. The big issue, there were some things, though, that kept BC in this game. One of them was Notre Dame's kicker. Notre Dame's kicker was awful. Just awful. He had a really, really bad game. He missed 2 extra points and a field goal. And that difference right there was enough for BC to really hang into this one, because they had the opportunity at halftime to put this game out of reach, because you had BC score a touchdown, Reed Harris, right before halftime. We also, let's take a step back here for a second. The game was started by Dylan Larnigan. I should get into this first. Dylan Larnigan comes out there, and I don't know what was going on. The offensive line for BC really struggled in this game. It looked like O'Brien went with a different group. He started Dwayne Alec again at center instead of Krauts. I'm guessing he probably went for more of the older guys because it was Krauts out there and Alec out there, and you saw Jude Bowery back out there as well. So they were trying to go with like the older group because I think probably what he's thinking is like a guy like Robert Smith is going to get eaten alive. And fair enough, because that defensive line for Notre Dame was ferocious in this game. Like BC, they ran the ball completely ineffectively. They ran the ball. Where is it? 33 times for 12 yards, averaging 0.4 yards per carry. That's not good. And the slow developing outside runs was not working for BC. That was a big issue for the Eagles. Also, the quarterbacks. You had Larnigan out there, and I think I would imagine the thought was you're going to bring him out there to do the quick throws to try to get the ball out quickly. Notre Dame's secondary was too good. They were slow. He just was not effective at all. So quickly, they go to Grayson James. James, to his credit, I think did better than much better than Larnigan. He was able to move the ball. And there was a bunch of penalties. Notre Dame got nailed with a bunch of penalties, and rightfully so, because they had only five, except actually, no, hold on. Sorry. They had, this is also crazy, 67 yards in penalties, 7 penalties for Notre Dame in this game. And they all seem to come at big spots for BC. So that was a big issue. But James was able to move the ball, and he hit, he continued to try to dance and jump and try to get out of a lot of pressure because the pressure was coming after him hard. And he had his ups and downs with that. I mean, obviously, they were coming at him everywhere. And BC's offensive line was not playing well at all. And that ended up, with, by the end, dooming James because he ended up throwing an interception or two. But he was able at one point to dance out of that pressure and throw a touchdown pass to Reed Harris, which was a great play. It was a great play. But after that, this is getting into halftime, he throws a touchdown. They kick an extra point, and Pape Sai, their redshirt freshman tackle, he gets called for a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, 15 yards. So now they're going to be able to return the kick. Then they get called for roughing the passer, 15 more yards. They get the ball to, 15-yard line or 20-yard line, setting up for a 35-yard field goal. This would have been a backbreaker for BC, and their kicker missed it. So you're going into halftime, and you're feeling pretty good about things. You're only down, 12-7, I think, and you get the ball back at the half. So you're feeling like good. Now, the second half, I'm going to get into that in just a moment because that is when things get a little bit crazy. We'll talk about that in just a moment. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps the game exciting, especially when your teams make that late push. I love Sam Hauser, and I love going for his 3 points that he's going to shoot in the game. And you could find that and then double it and try to turn it into a parlay with the Celtics odds now that they're in that in-season tournament. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA. This is Locked On Boston College live at Alumni Stadium. Boston College loses to the Fighting Irish 25-10. And we're getting into the second half. Now, BC, it seems like every game this year, Boston College has been kicking to start the third quarter. And this time, BC gets the ball. And you have momentum. You're down by, 5 points at this point. So you could technically get the lead if you score a touchdown. Now, Boston College goes on one of the craziest, longest drives I have ever seen. This drive goes 21 plays, 80 yards, and takes up 11 minutes, almost the entire third quarter. But unfortunately, they stall out at the 5-yard line and they kick a field goal. Now, this was exactly the type of drive Boston College needed. And Mitch and I talked about this in our preview episode. If Boston College could keep Notre Dame off the field, you had a better chance, especially coming out of the locker room. That means you kept CJ Carr and Love on the sidelines, and they're not playing. But you needed 7 there. And there were a few other drives, and I don't have them in front of me because I'm just quickly going over everything, that BC also left points on the board. I think that drive really was like, once they went for 3, I was like, this is going to be it. And they get the 3 points. They were able to do that. And Notre Dame comes back. They, after the field goal, Jeremiah Love gets they go on a 75-yard drive, play drive, a 75-yard drive that's scored by Jeremiah Love. BC goes 3 and out again, and then it's Jeremiah Love again. Like, they turn the ball over inside the 5, and he scores a 94-yard touchdown run. And that's it. That's all she wrote. So I'm not into moral victories. I'm just not. I'm glad to see BC didn't get their doors blown off, though. That was encouraging. The defense itself was encouraging because for the first time, yes, their secondary had their issues. There were times where, but the pass rush was also inconsistent. But you saw some pride in their secondary. I mean, in their defense. You saw Davion Crouch. It cannot be understated how big of a role he plays for this defense. There's a reason why I said going into the season, he's the team's MVP on the defense, because the plays are going to go through him. Now, you lost him since the Stanford game. He had not played since the Stanford game. I thought he was done for the year. We had, because we don't know what the injury statuses are of players in terms of long-term versus short-term, it just seemed to me that we would not see him again. So it shocked me that Bam was back. But he looked like the Bam Crouch I was expecting out there. He made a ton of plays, and I'm going to pull up his statistics in terms of tackles because I think that was interesting too. And, when you're looking at what BC really needed on defense, he brought it. He had 1 tackle. Apparently he had 1 tackle. Okay. I thought he had a lot more than that. But it just seemed like him being out there made everyone better. We saw, Owen McGowan stop a fake punt, and shout out to Bill O'Brien who called that coming. If you were listening on, I think it was his Thursday show with Meter, he said, we need to be careful about the fake punt because this team is a team that can do it. So Notre Dame had the chance to like on the BC side of the field, go for it on 4th down, and they go for the fake punt, and Owen McGowan picked up Jeremiah Love and basically suplexed him to the ground. It was a great stop for BC, and good job for sniffing that out. Now, in terms of the things I didn't like, the offensive line. The offensive line just did not play well. I have to say a lot of that is due to Notre Dame having a far superior defensive line. The defensive line is very, very good. And it just showed the difference between where BC's offensive line is and where Notre Dame's defensive line is at. It's a huge, gap there. So it's not like it's something that we didn't expect to happen, but it was very clear how different they were. And the fact that BC just couldn't run their offenses efficiently because you couldn't run the football, and that some of that was on coaching. Some of those plays that they were calling, when you're slower than Notre Dame, I don't know why BC kept going east to west with a lot of their runs and calling like screen passes because Notre Dame's way too fast for that. And they just kept getting eaten alive with that. Now, BC was able to run a few times, especially on like 3rd and short, and get those types of things. But otherwise, the run game was just not there. Additionally, it'll be interesting to see the advanced statistics on how much time Grayson James had back there because he did not have much at all. It was like step back, drop, throw. Everything, Notre Dame, I think by design, prevented BC from doing anything big. everything that BC did was like slow and plodding. And Notre Dame, I think, was trying to make them, to force them to cause mistakes. And hey, they scored 10 points. They did a good job at that. BC didn't, they threw interceptions. They had turnover on downs. BC's not made to be able to have those consistently long drives against a good defense like that. It just wasn't meant to be. So I think Notre Dame just kind of forced them to do little things here and gave them the underneath stuff over and over again. It was great to see Jaden Skeet out there. Again, just like with Crouch, I thought Skeet was gone. I thought, in terms of injuries for the season, I just never expected him to come back. And the fact that he was out there, he was, again, just like with Crouch, he was a huge addition to this team. And it just kills you, because if you had these two from, other parts of the season, how different could things be? It probably wouldn't have made a lick of difference against Pitt, Clemson, maybe Louisville, who knows? But I think like the Cal game, it would have been so great to have Skeet out there, because he is a difference maker out there. No offense to Dawson Pugh. Dawson Pugh, I think, will develop, but Skeet's at a much higher level at this point right now. I think he's got the guy that really is going to help your offense get more diverse. So that was interesting to see him back. There was one big play where Skeet was I think it was a third down, and Skeet made a great catch and then went down and fumbled it, and then fell on his fumble, and then Notre Dame grabbed the fumble from when he had it on the ground and ran it in for a touchdown. Luckily, that got reversed. Watching college football, you never know what the heck they're going to call. They call it, BC gets the ball back, and I don't think they ended up doing anything with it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So, again, another moral victory. Now, in our final segment, I'm going to get into, where does BC go from here? You have 3 games left. What does BC do? I'll talk about that in just a moment. It's the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Boston College, Reed Harris delivered in a big way. He scored the big touchdown and got out of a really tough pass interference call to make the catch. When the pressure was on, he came through, no hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Reed Harris is on a streak. And just like Reed Harris delivered for the Boston College Eagles, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive, fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply, promo period through 11/18. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's, moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. These are the moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is the fumble recovery by Favor Bate. Favor Bate, playing edge. BC was being backed up into their own red zone, and it looked like Notre Dame was about to score. They had the ball at the 5-yard line, fumble, and if you look at the picture, Bate came completely out of nowhere to jump on that ball and end a huge drive. It was a massive moment. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Wrapping things up here at Alumni Stadium, this is Locked On Boston College, your host, AJ Black. Thank you all who have subscribed. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe button. We're going to be doing lots of Boston College analysis. I might be doing some more post-game shows when it comes to basketball. You'll get to hear some more from me there. And our flagship show is 5 days a week. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button to make sure you get all of our BC content. So wrapping things up, BC falls to 1-8. On one hand, I guess you can leave with your head held a little high that you didn't get your doors blown off. You never like losing, but you also don't like losing by a lot. Now, BC has now lost 11 straight games against Notre Dame. The difference between the two schools was very clear today, as Notre Dame looked like a much better team, but we knew that coming in. It wasn't a big surprise. Now, you have to go on to the rest of your schedule. Look at who is left. You have SMU. SMU on Saturday afternoon beat Miami in overtime. Kevin Jennings threw for almost 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Looked every bit the playmaker that we saw, last year and the year before. He is dynamic, and they are now, I think, 6-2. This is going to be a big game. I thought going into this weekend, I didn't expect SMU to win this game. I honestly thought if BC could take a step forward, that this might be a game where BC could jump up. I mean, over the summer, this was the game I had circled as BC winning. I don't feel that way now. I just don't. I mean, it's BC. That being said, I don't think it's going to be, I don't see that as a blowout game. Could be something similar to what we saw against Louisville, right? You're playing against a good team with a good offense. Might be just tough. That's going to be tough. Then you host Georgia Tech. It doesn't get much easier than that. Harder than that. I mean, Haynes King, there's a chance they're going to be undefeated going into the ACC championship game. If they could beat Georgia, who knows what happens with them? They've got one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They have a great coach. That is going to be tough. BC legitimately, realistically, could be going into the final game of the season at 1-10. Not good. A realistic goal right now, which is sad, I know, I'm going to give you the bad news, is to win one more game, to not go 0 for the ACC. I think that is a realistic goal right now for Boston College. Can you find one more win? You have 2 games at home, one of them against a really good team, one's against a good team. Then you go on the road to face Syracuse. And I'm not going to bash Syracuse because they had a great start of the season. They lost Steve Angeli. They're bad now. They're really, really bad. And honestly, you might be better than Syracuse when it comes to that game. They started a walk-on quarterback against UNC who did nothing. They scored on a scoop score, which, hey, BC could probably give them some points doing that kind of stuff. But there's a chance they're going to – I don't know if they've been eliminated from playoff contention. I don't think they have. I mean, not from bowl contention, but they're getting close to that. There's a chance you could go to Syracuse and get that big win. That baby steps here for this year would be probably the best scenario possible. I don't see them beating Georgia Tech. And honestly, SMU is going to be a real tough game. So we're looking at either 1-12, 1-11 or 2-10. How sad is that? It's just where things are at. But hey, once that whistle blows at the end of the Syracuse game, that's when the interesting stuff happens. What happens to Boston College from there? I'm really curious what O'Brien is thinking at quarterback. This is one thing I continue to think about for the last couple of games. I honestly think he's probably going to go back to James. But is there hope in Dylan Larnagin? He looked completely lost. And I get it, it's against Notre Dame. But he's looked completely lost for about 3 or 4 games now. What does the staff think about that? Do they think they can have him develop more so that he can be the quarterback next year? Or do they go to Shaker Rising? Or do they go to the portal? And is there a future here with Dylan Larnagin? That's a big piece. What are they going to do about the staff? What are they going to do about next year? Because you're in year 3. This is put up or shut. They're going to be going into put up or shut up mode where they're going to have to figure things out. They're going to have to be able to get this thing back and going in the right direction, because this year has been a catastrophe. It has. You can call it whatever you want. It's been a catastrophe. And yes, some of the things they can't help. The injuries are insane. The injuries are nuts. But there's other things that they can control, and they're going to have to be able to fix those things. So I'll be back again Monday with Mitch Wolf to talk about this game. He's going to rewatch it. I don't think he watched it live yet, so he's got a surprise in for that one. But we'll be talking about that. We'll also talk about everything that we saw. Maybe talk a little bit about basketball, because basketball is going to preview on Monday night. Tip-off, excuse me. And we'll be doing that live. We'll be doing that for Monday, so check that all out. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Check me out on YouTube, on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Threads, and on Blue Sky. I'll see you guys all again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College. Your team every